we finally got to talk about the Florida Gators, man. How good are the Gators going to be in 2023? Now, right now, a lot of Florida fans are feeling really happy because they're having a lot of success on the recruiting trail right now. And Billy Napier, he's been having a lot of smiles on his face, but the season is about to kick off. And right now, nobody is expecting anything out of Florida this year. And a lot of Gator fans are going to tell you, man, JT, like, it doesn't matter what Vegas thinks. All that matters is that people are doubting us. Those players and those coaches, they're going to rally behind that. They're going to get that underdog mentality, and they're going to over exceed expectations this year. And, you know, it sounds good, but how is that going to be possible? And how good will Florida be in 2023? That's what we got to discuss. And if Florida is going to be able to overachieve this year, they need Graham Mertz to play at a solid level. Okay, now you got a really solid offensive line, despite the fact that you lost a couple of key players like Osiris Torrance to the NFL. You got a couple of good replacements in the transfer portal. You still have a couple of key guys coming back on the offensive line. So your run game should be really good. Having one of the best running back tandems in all of college football, and Trevor Etienne and Montrell Johnson. Your receiving core outside of Ricky Pearsall is really unproven, even though I have a lot of confidence that Marcus Burke is going to have a really good season. He was the only receiver in the spring game outside of Pretty Ricky that actually looked really good and made some big plays. He had that one completion that he made on the sideline where it was I don't really think it was more so a great throw by Graham Mertz, but I just think that it was more of a better catch than it was a throw. And if he doesn't end up, catching that ball the way that he did, I think that's an easy incompletion. And also, even though we pride ourselves on being unbiased, you guys already know we're going to be biased when it comes to brothers from the 904. So we're going to give Marcus Burke the benefit of the doubt that he's going to have a breakout season this year. So I'm going to place my breakout label on Marcus Burke this year. And now they got a new defensive coordinator in Austin Armstrong. And he is really respected. And the fact that he's one of the youngest defensive coordinators in the Power 5 tells you how good of a football coach he is. He helped transform that Southern Miss defense to a top 50 defense in college football. And their defense does have a good amount of talent. I don't know how deep they are in the secondary, but their defensive line, the way people are talking about it, has a good amount of talent and depth on it. And that cornerback, I think you're really underrated there. You got Jason Marshall, a cornerback that's really good, that has a lot of NFL stock behind his name. I've seen a couple of mock drafts have him mocked for the first and second round of next year's draft. So he's definitely a guy to keep your eyes on. Really good cornerback, really underrated. And when you look at the Gators' schedule this year, depending on how well Graham Mertz plays, they potentially could be an 8-win team this year. But if they don't get good quarterback play, or even serviceable QB play, I think they probably only win 4 games this year. And the SEC is so tough that if you don't have even serviceable QB play, it's going to be tough for you to survive. I don't think Florida is one of those teams that can carry a team like Georgia did with Stetson Bennett to a national championship. Their overall roster just isn't that talented enough. And if you're a biased Florida fan, of course you're going to disagree with that. But when you look at the overall talent that you have around Graham Mertz, it's not on the caliber of as an Alabama or Georgia. So I think for Florida, you do have the fact that you play Tennessee at home. Utah is going to be a tough game on the road, but you are playing them the first game of the regular season, which is always a great opportunity for teams to pull off upsets. You got Charlotte. You should win that game. McNeese State. So those are 2 easy wins right there. You got to go on the road to play Kentucky. That game could go either way, even though I think Kentucky I probably would take right now to be a favorite in that game, just because they got Devin Leary at QB. Their offensive line should be way better. They have 2 really good receivers, and their defense is going to be really good as well. So I think people are sleeping on Kentucky. You got Vandy. That could go either way. South Carolina, are they going to have a defense this year? And then after your bye week, that's really where your schedule gets really tough. You're going to have to pull off an upset against Arkansas, LSU at home, on the road, Missouri on the road. Now, you do get Arkansas at home, which I think is a game you got a chance at being able to win. And then Georgia, you're probably not going to be able to beat them. I think all of us can agree with that Georgia just is on a different level than what Florida is right now. But Missouri, LSU, I feel like you might be able to pull off an upset in one of those 2 games. Even though I probably would take Missouri to be the game to do that, because Missouri is the definition of mid. And then Florida State, it's a rivalry game. So even though FSU is the more talented team on paper, those rivalry games have the capability of being able to get really tight and close due to, you know, the kind of way that rivalry games tend to go. But overall, I think Florida probably could get the 6 wins this year. I'm not going to look at their roster and say that I got a lot of confidence they are a 6-win team on paper. It's just that I have a lot of faith in Billy Napier. And I tell you this every time, but I watched Billy Napier nearly every single game that he coached at Louisiana. I don't know why, but I was a temporary fan of the Raging Cajuns when he was the head coach there. So I think that he's a pretty good coach. It's just that he has a really young team that he still is trying to rebuild, and his way, his vision, and plus you're doing this in the SEC, and plus he isn't one of those guys that is just able to go crazy in the transfer portal like that. And he wasn't even able to get his ideal quarterback. According to a couple of Florida Gator fans out there in reports, his quarterback was Grayson McCall, but he wasn't able to transfer due to academic issues. So I think that Billy Napier, I still think that he's going to be able to find a way to get this team to over 5 wins. I do like Austin Armstrong. I think he's a really good addition on the defense side of the ball. I definitely think that this is going to be the best defense that Florida has had in a couple of years. They haven't had a good defense in a while, but I'm not saying this defense is going to be elite or anything, but this should be a pretty good unit. And the way their schedule lines up, I mean, you got to play Tennessee at home. So even though you may not be great, playing on the road in college football always puts the away team in some sort of disadvantage. So we'll see how that game goes. If your defense is good and Graham Mertz can be serviceable, you're going to have a chance to get the 8 wins.